Hello, and welcome back to our Plan.City MBS how-to series. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into one of the most important sections of the app, the Files panel. While the study panels allow you to visualize results, the Files panel gives you control over how those results are organized, categorized, and displayed. So we'll be taking a look at how to do that first. We'll be covering four key sections: the scenarios, the colors and thresholds, the settings, and the materials. Let's get started. We continue where we left it in the previous video, with the scenario already imported. With that done, we'll now proceed to click on the Files header button on the side panel to actually get inside the target of this video. Once in there, you'll notice that the first section inside it is called Scenarios. In Plan.City MBS, a scenario refers to a full set of exported MBS results, including both geometry and the associated analysis data. When you first launch the app, you import a base scenario, but you can add more scenarios later to compare different design proposals side by side. Inside this panel, you'll find four main areas. First, the scenario selection area. If you have multiple scenarios loaded, clicking on any of their names will switch the active scenario and update the work area accordingly. Next, the Add Scenario button. Clicking this element allows you to import another MBS export folder, just like you did when first launching the app. Then we have the work area. Here you can adjust the file paths of the result files or 3D models if needed. You can toggle the visibility of the different model groups belonging to that scenario. And you can, lastly, use the Remove Scenario button, which will let you remove any additional scenarios you've imported, though the base scenario will always remain. It's worth noting that the app currently supports up to 4 active scenarios at once, allowing for meaningful comparisons without overwhelming the interface. And also worth noting is that if you want to remove the base scenario, you'll have to quit or exit the side panel and then start a new import process to make that the base scenario. With this section of the Files panel covered, let's now move on to the Colors and Thresholds area, one of the most powerful sections in the app. By default, Plan.City MBS uses the colors and threshold values defined in the original MBS export. However, you can adjust these inside the app to better communicate results. At the top of this section, you'll find the option to save and load custom values, allowing you to store your customized color schemes and thresholds for later use. Below that, you'll see standard colors, which apply across multiple studies, such as the pass colors, the fail colors, the neutral tones, the gains and loss categories, and any other colors that might affect the rest of the various studies present in the app. Further down, the app creates study-specific categories for each analysis that has been imported, such as the VSE, APSH, SDA, and the others. Within each study section, you can modify the colors used for breakdown categories for those studies, adjust the threshold values that define those categories as well, rename categories if needed, revert to default MBS exported values, or create entirely new custom categories from scratch. Changing a threshold value will immediately update how results are grouped and displayed in the scene if a study is active whilst you're tweaking those values. This is particularly useful when you want to emphasize borderline cases, focus on specific performance bands, or tailor the presentation to different audiences. All updates happen in real time, making this an incredibly flexible presentation tool. With that covered, let's now look at the settings section. This area allows you to control certain behavioral aspects of the app. It contains 3 main categories. The first one is the 3D Models Materials category. This expandable area lists the different model groups currently in the scene, such as the proposed, the existing, or the surrounding models. Clicking on a group reveals the materials assigned to it. From here, you can modify shaders, adjust the appearance of various materials, and refine how geometry is visually presented. The second category is called Transparency Keywords. The controls present in this area define which layers from the surrounding group automatically receive transparent materials when transparency is toggled. Unlike proposed or existing models, which become fully transparent when you choose to toggle the transparency, the surrounding group only become transparent if their names contain specific keywords. This prevents elements like roads, terrain, or landscape features from disappearing unintentionally. You can add or remove keywords from this list depending on your preferences or model naming conventions. Ideally, you would type the name of the layer that you know appears in the layer from the surrounding group that you know want to turn transparent. The third and final category is the habitable room keywords. This section becomes particularly important when working with studies like the sunlight exposure. Here, the app uses keywords to determine which rooms are considered habitable. For example, when evaluating results on a unit basis, the app checks whether any room classified as habitable passes the criteria, and then assigns the assessment to the entire unit. If your naming conventions differ, you can modify the list of keywords here to ensure correct categorization. With that out of the way, let's look at the material section to see how we can adjust the various shaders applied to the 3D models. While we briefly touched on materials in the settings area, this section provides more detailed control over how models appear. When you expand a model group, you'll actually see a list of the materials assigned to it. From here, you can select individual materials to adjust their properties, or select multiple materials at once and use the Adjust Selected Materials button to edit them together. At the bottom of the panel, you'll also find a series of buttons. Update Material Preferences, which saves your adjustments for future sessions. Apply Accusities Colors, which attempts to reapply recommended preset colors based on model naming. And the Use Raw File Values button, which restores the original material values from the imported files. The combination of the previous choices should give you good visual control over how the 3D scene supports your analysis presentation. And with that said, we can say that we've mastered the Files panel, no small feat. To recap, this section allows you to manage multiple scenarios, customize result colors and threshold categories, control transparency and classification behavior, and fine-tune the materials applied to your models. While the study panels show the results, the Files panel ensures you present them exactly the way you need. In the next videos, we'll begin exploring each of the individual analyses available in Plan.City MBS, starting with the vertical sky component. See you in the next one!